I'm Robert Schlide, Chief of Police for Shelby Township, and welcome to Straight Talk. We have a very special program for you today. We have two special guests. First of all, to my right is Erin Whitkoff, and to her right is Ryan Zemke. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Both you two are from an organization called Hope Not Handcuffs. This is an organization that the Shelby Township Police Department partnered with, back about 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago. And I think it was at a meeting at Christmas time with several of the chiefs of police, several people from FAN, and the people from Massachusetts that started this program came in. So, Erin, why don't you tell us a little bit about the program and what's happening here in Macomb County?
Well, we modeled our program after the program in Massachusetts, PARI, and all 20, I think it is, police departments are on board with us in Macomb County.
Yep.
So anyone can walk into any police department and tell the officer on duty that they need some help, and we'll send in an angel volunteer who will sit with them until a suitable treatment option is found.
Okay, and then now we're talking specifically about drug abuse and more specifically about heroin abuse, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if alcohol, any drugs we'll accept, but FAN really does focus on the opioid epidemic that we're experiencing right now.
Yes, and this is a problem nationwide.
Yes.
Not a problem specific to Macomb County or the state of Michigan or anything. This is going on nationwide. You can't pick up a national paper without reading about an opioid problem with the heroin overdoses. I think for the first time in history, I saw a stat at the Center for Disease Control that said that we're having more deaths. They passed car accidents. Have you heard that stat before or not?
Yes.
So it's actually kind of scary that we're losing this many people. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of focus on young people, but the reality of it is we're losing people from all walks of life. All ages. Every time I hear of a death, I ask the age, and I'm getting ages all around the board. Is that your experience also?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ryan, have your experience with that also?
Absolutely. It's not, everyone thinks this is someone else's problem, and as you can attest to, this is just as prevalent in the northern end of the county as it is in the Warrens and the East Points. As a defense attorney, when I go into different courts, I see the same problems in every court. It's clogging up our system, and it's time that we get on board with starting to treat this disease rather than just jailing people where they're not going to get the help they need.
Correct. I agree with you. And now, I know you mentioned you're a defense attorney, but you're also, the reason you're here specifically is because you represent Hope Not Handcuffs, the program, correct? Okay. I want to tell you something interesting. I was having a conversation with my staff this morning, and I told them about when I went to the dinner where all the chiefs were invited back around Christmas time, and they brought people in from Massachusetts that talked about this program. And I believe there's a chief of police that instituted it out in Illinois, and it really made a big difference in the community. And I was highly skeptical about the success. When I came back to the police department, and I was telling, look, we're getting involved, we're going to partner up, but I don't expect more than maybe 1 or 2 people to show up here an entire year. Yeah. I was wrong there. Yes. You want to give us some information about numbers we've had just since I think around January?
February 1st is when we launched, and as of yesterday, we've placed 179 participants in detox and residential treatment.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I still don't understand the dynamic of it. I've been in law enforcement for over 30 years. I've worked on 3 different departments over my 30-year career. And when I heard about the program, I didn't think it was going to work. I confess. I was a skeptic. However, I was more than willing, if we could help anybody. I thought, even if we helped that 1 or 2 people at my department, we wanted to partner. And I guess my thought process was, if people, you want to get help, you don't. I didn't really see the need for them to have the police department involved. However, I was extremely wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. And I think we were the first or second department that had somebody come through the doors. And now my staff is well trained and well versed, and everything's going fantastic. So just to know that we're out there and that people can come get help, it's very important.
Yes.
Yeah. Ryan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with you. It sounds crazy to think someone's going to walk into the police department to get help, but they're at that point in their lives where they want to get help, and frankly, some of them just don't know how to get help until they heard about this program. There's obviously some trust issues there with the addicts and the police department to some extent, but now that the first batch has gone through the program, came back successfully, and is telling their friends, their family, anyone they run into that this is a program that works, that they're not there to cause trouble with you. You can actually walk into a police department, crazy as that sounds, tell them you need help, and they will facilitate that for you. And it's been a great success for us, and we hope it continues.
Now, Ryan, I know that we're not the first community in Michigan, correct? You want to tell us a little bit about
Correct.
where it started?
The Michigan State Police in northern Michigan, UP, started this program about 6 to 8 months before us. They run their model a little differently, and it's much lower volume given the population differences. I think they've had less than 10 people in their first year, whereas we've had almost 200 in 4 months. So they're a little different model, but in the end, the key in all this is that you have a community working together, both through our government resources through MCOSA and Access Center for those that don't have insurance, and then the volunteers at large are what we call angels. Those are volunteers who come to the police department, will sit with the participant so that we're not tying up the police officers too long, fill out their intake form, get them into treatment. I think we have over 200 volunteers in Macomb County, and we're looking to add more all the time. So those are the people that really make this program work, that are volunteering their time, willing to give someone help who's willing to get help for themselves.
Okay, this is a very interesting dynamic, what we have going on here. Aaron, why don't you give us a little bit backdrop about how this stemmed, where you started, what organization you were with when you got this idea about Hope Not Handcuffs, who the people were involved. You can give us a little bit more insight into that.
Sure. Well, I've been volunteering with Families Against Narcotics for 6 years, and I think it was about a year and a half ago that they started researching and talking with PARI and talking to the police departments and seeing how we could get this rolling. Okay. But I was interested initially. Are you asking about my personal experience about why I was interested?
No. I meant about I know you started with FAN, and then it kind of spread to, we got Hope Not Handcuffs, and I know that we mentioned Judge Davis is involved, and I think one of your specific board members at FAN, like basically how you got approached with the idea, and that's what I mean specifically.
I think that Diane and Gardio actually read an article or saw something on 2020. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but she brought it to the board, and we talked about it, and
now, what is her position on the FAN board? Was she the director of the FAN board?
I believe she's the director, yes.
I see, okay. And then what is her role with Hope Not Handcuffs?
I'm not sure that Diane, so we have a volunteer coordinator, Lisa, and when she's not, she coordinates all of the angels. And when she's not available, Kelly, Nahas, or Diane and Gardio take the calls and get an angel out when we have a participant at a police station.
For the most part, our FAN board involves people who have personal stories.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough not to have one, knock on wood, at this point, but I believe the rest of our board has all been personally affected by this disease, and as they hear about things that maybe they wish they could have gotten a hold of earlier to help with their personal stories, we do our absolute best to bring it to the county and the state through FAN. So I believe Diane had heard about this program. It was gaining a lot of traction. Like you said, everyone kind of thought that's a crazy program. People are never going to walk into a police station. And then as Gloucester proved their model, they began to get national recognition. I know they were recognized by President Obama at the White House for the program. We thought it would be a good idea to bring it to our area, to our state, because we are having such an issue with this epidemic. And from there, we put everything we had into it as a FAN board, especially Diane and Judge and Katie and everyone else, to get it brought here, and it's been extremely successful. And if they can help just one person not go through what they had to go through, that's worth it to them.
Okay. Let me switch back to you, Aaron. What do you think about the marijuana and the legalization of marijuana and the medical marijuana? Do you think this is playing into the kids, being willing to risk, first trying out the marijuana and then moving on to the heavier drugs, or do you think there's no correlation at all?
I know that marijuana is a gateway drug, but I don't know really how that plays into the statistics and how we're...
Are you alarmed at the movement in the state of Michigan towards a full-blown legalization of marijuana, or not whatsoever?
It scares me a little bit. I'm not sure what my position is on it, because I know there are some medicinal uses, but I don't know about recreational use, how well that'll work for us. I think maybe we'd have to look at other states that are doing it and how that's affected their communities.
I know that I've mentioned this on a few of my past programs. We had a dispensary open up right down the block back a couple years ago, right when I was a brand new chief. We got notified that they're literally slinging marijuana out of there like it was a 7-Eleven, right? Well, worried about the legalization aspect and the medical part, we had to do an extensive investigation. We had to partner with the prosecutor's office. and our investigation lasted 3.5 months. By the time we were ready to raid the location and several other homes that were associated with the business, I think it was 3.5 full months. We raided the location. I showed up on scene about 10-15 minutes after to talk to the press, and business owners came out of the location, out of the different businesses that were next door to the dispensary, and they accused me of being on the take and different things because it took us so long, and we're sitting there letting them operate in the open, right? And obviously, I explained to everybody, and they understood. I said we had to do a thorough investigation.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is, something a lady said to me, I'll never get out of my head. She basically told me, in a nutshell, that medical marijuana was a joke. She said that she sat here and watched the clients come in. She said that they were all young white kids, anywhere between age 18 and 23. She said 95% of them. She said she didn't see anybody that appeared sick. She said it looked to me like it was all, lifestyle choices. And that kind of alarmed me. It was the first time I ever had anybody with that type of experience. She said, I sat here and watched for 3.5 months these kids coming in here. Then when you went in and actually looked at the product that they had in there, they had all kinds of candy and gummy bears and everything you could possibly imagine to try to coax kids. And then you hear the argument on the other side. I actually had a reporter call me and try to drill me and say, well, do you realize that medical people that are sick and sick kids want this type of stuff? So that's their argument on the other side. I don't believe that at all. I think that they're targeting children. They're trying to get people hooked on marijuana. And I do believe that marijuana is a gateway drug. I think if you're willing to experiment with marijuana and everything's good, people move on to the next thing. So that does alarm me myself.
Yeah.
You want to add on to that, Ryan?
No, I mean, I think what you're saying is right. There's certainly the legislature and the people voted, so the laws are what they are now in the state of Michigan, and there's certainly a proper time and place to an extent for the medical marijuana. But just in my experience through seeing speakers at FAN, through drug court, commonly people do start with marijuana, never think they're going to make it past that, and then next thing you know, they're addicted to heroin a couple years down the line. I don't know the statistics, I don't know the direct correlation between that, but that's just what I'm seeing in my line of work from where it progresses.
Okay. Aaron, are you an angel with Hope Not Handcuffs?
Yes.
And do you have experiences of going to the police stations and sitting down with some of the different people asking for help?
I do.
Can you give me a general experience, not a specific one, but a general one of basically what happens when you sit down with that person that's asking for help?
Well, we'll sit down and we get some basic information, sign some releases. Every participant is different, obviously, but they're all, the few that I have sat with are, they're at their bottom and they're sad and they just want some help, and they really respond well and are surprised because the police officers are treating them with compassion and respect. And then they can see from the angels too that we really care about them and we want them to get some help. We want them to be healthy, and I think it's nice when they have that compassion coming from someone other than a family member, because a lot of times they've already burned their bridges, and it's just nice to see other people caring, people that don't even know them, that really do care about them.
Yes, thank you. When I was brand new chief here around 28 months ago, I was told by our township supervisor, Rick Stathakis, that there was, in fact, a heroin problem in this community. And I was kind of stunned to hear that. And I told him, I said, we're going to come in and make some changes. One of the first things I did is I assigned one of my police officers to the DEA. He's assigned down there now. He's deputized by the federal government. He works down out of the Detroit DEA headquarters, and he has nationwide powers of arrest. He also has access to nationwide intelligence networks. They work major cases, but he's still a Shelby Township Police officer. We pay his salary, okay? However, he brings, are you familiar with this program, Aaron?
No.
Or no? He brings a great awareness of the big problem of how the drugs are coming in. Like, I could sit down and ask him questions that we never would have had access to in the past. Who's moving the stuff where? Kind of my thought process when Judge Davis first contacted me when I was brand new, asking me to try to get involved. My experience, I wanted to go after the head and cut the head off of the supplies. That was my thing. I promised the DA that we're going to eventually send him a second body right now, and that's in the works right now. My plan for 2018 is to assign a second Shelby Township police officer down there. And this is a big deal. I just don't do this arbitrarily. I have to get approval from my board of trustees. Last time was unanimous, and I explained the whole process. And then a little small ancillary benefit, not the reason why we did it, is any drug money that's seized, we get a little kickback from the federal government, 15%, which could be a significant amount of money.
Sure.
They have these $5 and $6 million busts. We haven't had a big one yet, but we've had a lot of little ones. We are making a difference. Our police department is, especially in this community. The smallest little incident of somebody using heroin, we call him in. We call the DA in, get him involved. And our whole, obviously, our goal is to try to find out those people that are supplying the stuff. I've always thought to myself, I've been in law enforcement for 30 plus years, that this heroin, this stuff, and same with crack cocaine, is a devil's drug. My years as a younger officer, it was crack cocaine for the longest time. It's kind of fallen off. Now we started it with the heroin back in the last few years. And I mentioned this earlier, and I'm sure you could attest this, Ryan, actually for you specifically. This touches people from all walks of life. I don't care what your class level is, how much money your family has or doesn't have, or what kind of job you have. Ryan, you want to interject on that?
Yeah, everyone thinks this is the guy sitting under the viaduct on I-94 on your way downtown, and it's all across our community. It's something you don't see every day, but spend a day in court and you'll see that this is what's clogging up 80% of the court's dockets, and it doesn't matter if you're white, black, red, brown, yellow, green, male, female. It affects all people, all ages. There's actually a huge issue with this in our senior community of being overprescribed and being addicted. So it's touching everyone's lives right now, and it's something we need to get our hands on. And hopefully programs like Hope Not Handcuffs will help continue the progress we're making.
Whenever I sit down and think about the different people that are affected, right across the street from my sister's house, there's a little girl. I think now she's around 8 or 9 years old. Her grandparents have raised her since she's been an infant. Both parents overdosed, and they were young kids, like 19, 20 years old. And grandpa raising the little girl, and my niece and nephew hanging around with her and everything like that. It's very upsetting every time I see her to know that growing up without parents, especially without her mother, which is very upsetting. There's a lot of personal tragedies and stories that we hear. Erin, you want to interject a little bit on that?
Well, I don't know statistically speaking how many children are losing their parents. I know it's way too many. I see stories all over the internet about babies being born addicted to opiates, or parents overdosing with the kids in the car, and it's just a tragedy. We're losing a generation of people, and then I can't even imagine the children that are growing up seeing this, what kind of effect that will have on them. It's devastating, I'm sure.
My detective lieutenant, Jason Schmittler, he's worked narcotics for the last 15 years. He had his own narcotics crew. He's highly attuned. He told me something very disturbing, and I want to know if either one of you have heard this before. He said when it gets out to the users that there's a bad batch and people are ODing, they seek this batch. I was like, I didn't understand that. I've never been around this stuff in my entire life at all, other than my professional. And really, my experience has always been with the crack cocaine, not the heroin side. Now that I've been in administration for the last several years, I'm not on the street around the heroin, and or around the people that are doing that kind of stuff. And when I heard that alarmed me greatly. Is that your both experience? Have you heard that before? When they find out their people are dying from a batch, that they go pursue that batch? Have you heard that before, Erin?
I have. Addiction is difficult to understand. It's, besides a physical ailment, it's also a thinking disease. So when you're under the influence of something like this, there's no, real clear thoughts, or, they see that there's something stronger and maybe I can get more high, and so I'm going to try that too. It's not, I'm afraid I'm going to die. They're not worried about dying. I've heard many times from addicts that they would welcome death. They're miserable. They don't want to live that way, but they want to be high too. It's the only way they know how to function sometimes.
Out of our 179 people that we have in the program, do you have any information statistically about how many of them will stay clean?
We don't know that yet. This is a new program, so we just launched February 1st, and we're going to have to give it some time before we can get those kind of statistics. Is
there measurements put in place? We're going to try to track the people through the passage of time to see how long they stay clean for. Have you put anything like that in place?
Yeah. Our Angel coordinator has other volunteers working on following up with people when they get out of treatment. And I always, when I am sitting with a participant, I give them my cell phone number, and I offer, for them to contact me while they're still in treatment, when they're working on their discharge plans, so we can look for three-quarter housing or some sort of sober living situation and get a peer recovery coach too.
I see. Okay. So Ryan, I have a question for you. How many of the staff or the board at Hope Not Handcuffs are volunteers?
We have the entire board of directors is a volunteer based. The only paid positions we have are 2 assistants that do all the running around and day-to-day operations that we don't necessarily have time to do as board members because we're all working full-time jobs. But it's in our bylaws. We're not allowed to be paid as part of director.
Is your position as the attorney, are you volunteer also?
Correct.
That's very noble, by the way.
Correct. Thank you.
For all the volunteers.
Yeah.
I'm extremely impressed. I want you to know that. Ryan, what specific involvement are you asking the attorney to do? Have a wise, big brain on the board and everything. Are they giving you specific tasks?
I do help with some of the nonprofit stuff, even though that's not my area of focus. I do primarily do criminal defense. So I've been working with Judge Davis in her drug court as well as the Veterans Court at 41B District Court. And that's where I really got involved and, pulled at my heartstrings a little bit, getting to know these people that are brave enough to enter into those programs and get recovery. You get to know them on a personal level. You get to see that the person they are when they enter the court system isn't the person that they really are. You get to see their families. At the end, they tell you, "Thank you for saving my life," and it's believable. You know that these people were likely to wind up either in debt or in prison if they continued on the path that they were. And you're giving them a second lease at life, and their families getting their son, their daughter, their brother, their husband back. They're getting reunited with their children. So we've had tremendous success with the drug courts. I know it's not necessarily my involvement as a director with FAM, but that's kind of all linked together in this web that the epidemic has weaved so far.
Approximately how many volunteers are there for Hope Not Handcuffs?
I believe we're at 200 to 300 in that range.
200.
It's incredible.
And we're accepting more every day. If anyone wants to get involved, they can go on the FAN website, which is familiesagainstnarcotics.org. Under the programs tab, it'll say Hope Not Handcuffs, and they can volunteer to be an angel. And recently, we're beginning to expand into Genesee and St. Clair counties, so they're going to need angels out there as well.
Okay, so we have a website?
We do.
Yes.
Okay, we'll have Stacy put it up and make sure that we get the information out to the people and everything.
Okay.
Ryan, you want to tell us a little bit about a run you have coming up?
Yeah, so we have our annual FAN Run Drugs Out of Town event. It's held July 15th at Fraser High School. We get nearly 2,000 runners every year. It's a great event. We have a recovery tent. We have a lot of teams who come to honor a loved one or someone in recovery. And you can register online at the website as well.
This fundraiser sustains our efforts throughout the year with Families Against Narcotics.
And you're bringing in 2,000 people to this event?
Yes.
Is it a 5K?
Yes, it is. And you can walk. You don't have to run.
That's incredible that you're getting this amount of people.
Yeah.
And that's in the past. I'm guessing it might be bigger this year.
Well, we had 1,700 last year. We're expecting 2,000 this year.
I see.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then Ryan, are you going to be out there running yourself?
I will not be running. I will be there helping, getting everything organized. We get there bright and early in the morning to get the field set up. We blow up a bunch of balloons. We do a balloon release for those in recovery, all biodegradable materials, no harm to the environment. To honor those in recovery and those that we've lost, we have 2 different colored balloons that we release before the start of the race. That's a great thing to be a part of that everyone always touches. It always touches them. But yeah, it's a great event. Definitely something to come out and check out. We get vendors, but the team tents really to see the community come together for their loved ones is really something to see. And you can also do a 10K as well as the 5K.
Okay. And how many angels do we have in the program? Do you know?
200.
Okay, I know there's volunteers, but they're all considered angels?
Yes.
Okay, I want to give you a compliment real quickly. I know that one of the last ones we had, or two ago, I guess we made a phone call, and then somebody's literally in our lobby within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like unheard of, and I actually got back to my level. A lot of little stuff doesn't get to my level, and they came and make sure they reported that Hope Not Handcuffs doesn't mess around.
No.
Yeah,
you
they were
do
like
not.
in the lobby, took care of everything, and to the point where we thought this was going to be a burden when it happened on our staff. Everyone on my staff is glad to help. We're extremely appreciative. We're glad we were asked to partner in this program. Another thing is being a proud member of law enforcement for the last 30 years. I love the fact you told me that all the agencies in Macomb County are involved in this program. That hits my heart. So
Yeah.
we're not all just big goons and thugs like a lot of the media tries to paint us out to be.
No.
We're actually we do have hearts. We want to help the members in our community any way we possibly can. So
Yes.
thank you very much both for coming on the show,
Thank
explaining
you.
what you do. Very admirable, and thank you.
Thank you.
You've been watching Straight Talk with Robert Schlide. We'll see you next month.
We'd like to take a moment and talk about severe weather and tips that can keep you safe. Thunder and lightning storms happen all the time. Do you know what to do to keep your family safe? Be aware, if you hear thunder, you are within distance of being struck by lightning. If you're outside, look for shelter inside a large building, home, or in a hardtop vehicle, and remember to stay away from windows. If lightning does strike your home, dial 911 immediately and move to a safer place, such as a neighbor's home. During a lightning storm, there is no safe place outside. Do not seek shelter under a pavilion, as this type of structure does not provide enough safety for you. Never stand under a tree during a lightning storm. As there's many technical reasons for this, just remember a tree can and will be used as a lightning rod. If somebody is struck by lightning, call 911 immediately.